Hello, hello. What's up? Good evening and welcome. Good evening or good morning, depending on what part of the world you are in. My name is Chris Gila. If we haven't met, so good to see you all. Thank you for coming. I'll give everybody a moment to come on in. Got a couple things I'll talk about here this afternoon, but let's see where everybody is joining from. Post a little note, give me a wave, let me know you can hear me. I haven't been on Instagram as much recently. I'm doing these daily YouTube streams every morning at 9 a.m. Pacific time. So I haven't missed a day there, but it's been a little bit since I've done these Instagram lives. So it's good to see you all. Yeah, I hope you all are well. I hope you all are doing well and had a good weekend, a good couple of days, etc. I am on week 3 of my virtual book launch for my new book, The Money Tree. It's been the strangest process doing this book launch because normally I'm out on the road going to like 40 different cities. Well, I was going to go to 40 cities this time, and I'm going to 0 cities. So instead, I'm speaking to lots of groups virtually. I'm doing this live streaming thing. I am just doing whatever I can to get the word out in a totally changed and fractured, chaotic, disordered world and such. So it's been very interesting to me. I wanted to talk a little bit about here today about reselling and also about impostor syndrome. So 2 topics that may not seem connected, but I think I can actually tie them together at some point now that people are coming in. So I did a post earlier today, which was like, if you asking people if you've sold anything online. So I'm curious, for those who are just coming in, have you sold anything online, and what was it? What have you sold online? Feel free to post that in the comments there. When I asked on the post earlier, my actual photo post, I got all kinds of responses. I think 80 different responses so far, with people saying that they had sold purses, furniture, craft supplies, vitamin supplements, coloring books, tester perfumes, vacant land, online courses, and my favorite response, I think, was videotaped copies of NSYNC and Britney Spears when they were on the Mickey Mouse Club, to people who might want to see those, many years later or something. So welcome everybody. My name is Chris Gila. We're talking at the moment about reselling or selling anything online. If you've sold something online, let me know. We've got somebody who sold an online course. Shanthi. I sell my art and meditations, old camera equipment, old VHS machine. What's up? Furniture. Yeah, several people said that in the post earlier today. In the book, the main character, Jake, he gets his start kind of reselling textbooks. Several people said that in the post as well. Just reselling old college textbooks that he thought he was going to use, and of course never ended up using them at all. So he goes he undertakes that project, and it leads to lots of other stuff that comes later and such. So if you've sold something online, let me know. I got my start maybe 20 years ago selling stuff online, and these days I'm an author, I'm a podcaster, but once in a while I'm like, it'd be kind of fun to be a reseller. It would be an interesting experiment. So who knows? We'll see. Antiques. Hey, what's up? What's up, antiques? So I believe if you're, okay, so let's talk a little bit about the art of reselling. We talked about this a lot more in my YouTube streams in the mornings. If you are out there and you're struggling for cash and you're like, man, I need some money like now, basically, because I'm unemployed or because I'm not sure what's going to happen with my job in the future, etc. There's all kinds of other businesses that you may eventually go into, or side hustles, etc. But if you're looking for the quickest thing to do, like right now, reselling is the thing to do. Like, everybody has stuff in their closet that they don't need. You can put it online, you can put it on eBay, you can put it on Etsy, you can put it on Nextdoor, OfferUp, Gumtree, so many different platforms these days. And what's interesting about it is it's not just a matter of like making some cash, from those items. What I think is even more interesting is it often leads people to do something different. It leads them, they start with that and they're like, oh, that's cool. Like, these people on the internet are paying me for stuff. I wonder what else I could sell. I wonder what else I could do like this, or I'm learning this skill that I haven't had before. And so it's one of those things that is very accessible to people. We're talking about reselling for everybody who's joining. Hey, what's up? Let me know if you have sold anything online. We're talking about selling stuff online, reselling, and then I'm going to talk about imposter syndrome in a moment, because I got a lot of questions about that after a blog post recently. So reselling is the easiest thing to jump into. It can often lead to something greater, and it's very low cost as well. It's very low cost. You can start with stuff you already have. From there, you can pay attention to what is selling and say, oh, I want to specialize in antiques, like somebody said, or like furniture, or coloring books was mentioned earlier, craft supplies, purses, vintage clothes, whatever it is. And then from there, it might lead you to something that's completely disconnected from that. But the point is, it's a good start for people. So I always recommend it. And if you've read the book, The Money Tree, that's kind of how the main character kind of gets going, essentially. So what are the best things to resell? Great question. By the way, feel free to post comments and questions. I will, chat for a bit, and then I'll kind of cycle back. So I'll try to respond to everything. And if I don't respond to your comment, it's just because I'm doing a couple of things at once here. And I always go back at the end and read everybody's comments. So thank you for co-creating this experience with me. As for things that are good to resell, what is good to resell is something that has a relatively high price, first of all, and I'll talk about each of these things. So relatively high price, something that is in demand, and something that you can, how should I put it, something that you can add some amount of value to, or otherwise, do something with to improve it somehow. So let's go through each of those things. Oh, and Andrea Shu says, I sold unopened Legos that the kids didn't want. I sold unopened Legos too, like way back 20 years ago. So you want to sell something that has a relatively high price. Legos, can have a really high price or relatively high price. What I mean is like $50, $100, a couple of $100, more than that. Not just like $5 or $10. Because if you sell something for like $5, and even if you paid $1 or $2 for it, then technically your profit margin is really high, but you're actually only making like a couple of dollars. So you gotta have to sell like a lot of those things. Whereas if you're selling something for $100, and maybe you paid $80 for it or something, then the profit margin is lower, but you're actually making a lot more money. So it's usually much easier to do that. So you want items that are selling at a relatively high price. You want stuff that is in demand, because you don't want to end up like holding on to inventory for months and months, especially if you're in a pinch for cash. So you want to look online at sites like eBay and see what is selling now. And a lot of those sites allow you to search for completed listings. There's usually an option somewhere you can see, like, I'm searching for Lego sets. Maybe there's a particular Lego set that you're looking at. You can search and see how many have sold in the past few days. So that's good to kind of give an indicator of demand. Welcome to everybody who's joining. We're talking about reselling. We're talking about reselling stuff, and somebody asked, what are some good items to resell? So there are some things that are always in demand, and then there are some things that kind of come and go depending on what's happening in the world. So like right now, in the age of COVID-19, which by the way, I hope you're all holding up okay. I hope you're all doing, as well as possible wherever you are in the world. Just remember that this time doesn't define us. It is a struggle, but we can get through it. And my goal for myself and my goal for you is that we'll actually be better off, at the end of it than we were before. And we can use this time, to make some kind of change or positive shift and such. Okay, so COVID-19 stump speech complete. So, for example, now lots of people are working remotely who haven't done so before. And so there's all kinds of interest in getting like better microphones, better webcams, better home office equipment. All that stuff is selling really, really well right now. Home exercise equipment, similar situation. Like people can't go to the gyms, they're buying all that stuff. They're buying lots of stuff to do their workouts at home. iTurn says, I'm here from Mike Rohde's recommendation. I hope you're doing fine during this pandemic. Thanks. Mike Rohde is a good friend of mine. Mike did a post about me earlier today. It was nice of him. Mike is a wonderful illustrator, among many other things. He did the art for the $100 Startup, a book that I wrote many years ago, and did some amazing illustrations there. So welcome. Somebody says, let's go live. We are live. I'm live. I'm live right now. So we talked about two things: a relatively high price, high demand, and then the last thing is something you can do to improve the item, or some kind of value that you can add to the process. So if we're talking about camera gear, for example, or computer equipment, you might look and find something that isn't quite working right, or there's some small flaw with it, like not a huge flaw, but something that you can fix. And then you can acquire that item for, a relatively low price. Since other people don't want to mess with it, you can fix it, you can improve it somehow, and then sell it from there. In the book, when Jake was doing his textbook stuff, he started by selling the textbooks that he already had, but then he went to look and see like what else, what other auctions are selling for these textbooks, and he ends up buying like a bulk set, of the same textbook, which is going to sell at a low price relative to individual textbooks, because most college students don't need 10 of the same title. So the value he adds there is essentially like, I'm buying the bulk set and I'm reselling them, individually. So that's what he did with that. We're all alive, fortunately, right now. Yes, yes. Well, everybody watching is at least. So yes, I mean, this is one of these times where it's always good to kind of just appreciate, life and appreciate what we have. And so I've been trying to do that myself. So we've been talking about reselling. Before I jump off, I want to talk about just briefly about imposter syndrome, which I realize is kind of a different topic, but even if it seems more high level or philosophical, I think it actually kind of comes down to being practical, because the reason why I brought this up, I wrote a blog post about it. I've been getting so many questions from people who have all of this resistance to starting their project or to making a big change, whatever it is. And so I started thinking, like, what are the reasons for this? Like, what's the catalog of reasons, the taxonomy of reasons, what holds people back? And I think often people point to a lack of knowledge or a lack of expertise, or they're like, well, I don't know how to do this thing, whatever it is. Like, I'm trying to start my side hustle, but I don't know, how to do it. So I'm lacking this specific knowledge. Or if it's something different, some other different goal that they have, they're still lacking some kind of knowledge or expertise. That's what they point to. Sometimes they also point to a lack of resources, like, I don't have enough money, I need capital to start my business, I need more time, I need a certain connection, I need access to resources to a certain person or whatever. And so it's not that those cases never exist, but what I really believe, and based on my experience and hearing from thousands of people over the years about this, I think that the greater thing is internal resistance. And most of us hold ourselves back when we have a dream, when we have something we really want to do. What's holding us back is not the lack of access to a resource. It's this internal resistance that we have, and something within us is like, we aren't good enough, or we're going to fail, or like, who are we to think that we could do this thing? Somebody else has been doing it for a long time, they're doing it much better than I possibly could. Well, I had an idea a long time ago, but I didn't pursue that idea, now it's too late. Either I'm too old, or this moment in time has passed me, whatever. There's like a constant, an endless list of reasons, justifications for this internal resistance. And people often talk, hey, what's up? Good to see you guys. Feel free to post, everybody's coming in now. Feel free to post like where you're watching from. We're talking about imposter syndrome, because I've been getting a lot of emails about this. So I did a post about this on my blog. And so there's an endless list of reasons why you might not want to do something, or you have this resistance. You're just like, I can't right now. And I think what it comes down to is, so people are always like, I have this thing called imposter syndrome, which I don't even like that phrase, but people keep using it all the time. And so I started thinking, I was like, well, there actually is an imposter in this process, but the imposter is not the part of you with the dream. The imposter is not the part of you that's trying to start your project, or to make a big change, or to like break out of this, bad habit or bad routine or whatever it is that you're in. The imposter is the one that's holding you back. And the imposter is actually the one that hesitates. So you have these two parts, right? You have like this authentic self and an inauthentic self. And the imposter is the inauthentic self that hesitates, that waits, that says you're not good enough, that says you're not ready, that says, other people are better at this, all those reasons that I just named. And probably you have your own, your own reasons, your own internal objections, that you voice whenever you're trying to do something and you encounter this resistance. But that's actually the imposter. And the real part of you, like the authentic self, that's the one that has the dream in the first place. The authentic self is like, I want to do this thing. Like, I have this idea for a reason. And I have been gifted with this time. I have been gifted with this opportunity and this possibility, and there's so much potential in the world. And right now I can go on the internet and talk to people in Alaska and New Zealand and everywhere else out there. And, that's new and beautiful and interesting. And yes, there are all these constraints in the world right now, and constraints and limitations and such. But constraints can also foster freedom, because you're like, well, I can't do this, I can't do this. So there's all this stuff you can't do. The question is, what can you do? And I think the authentic part of you is the one that's moving forward. The authentic part of you is the one that's dreaming. The authentic part of you is the one that's like, you know what, I'm not sure how to do this thing, but I'm going to try it anyway. So for myself, like a few weeks ago, it was like, okay, I got to launch this book. I have to launch a book into a world in which I can't go on book tour, and 99% of the media attention in the world right now is focused on a single topic. So it's really not a great time, to be an author and put out a book. So I'm like, well, I could focus on that, or I can focus on what's within my control, which is, pretty small number of things. But in choosing to focus on what's in my control, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to start a YouTube series. I don't know how to do that. I'm not very good at that. Other people have done it before. Again, all that internal resistance. But the authentic part of me, I think, this is what I believe, was the one that had the idea, and the one that was like, no, I should just try to do whatever I can. So for you out there, South Africa, good to see you. Early in the morning there. Wow, early in the morning or late at night, I guess. It depends on how you look at it. I feel like time is in a vortex these days, but we'll come back to that perhaps. Just to wrap this part up, for you, the inauthentic self is the one that's holding you back. The inauthentic self is the one that is preventing you from moving forward, the one that keeps reinforcing those voices in your head that are saying that, you're not good enough, you're too late, you're too old, you don't have enough money, you don't have enough, whatever the resource, the asset, or the connection is. Whatever those things that you lack, that's what the inauthentic self is pointing to. Whereas your authentic self is like, hell yes, I can do this. I can figure it out. I'm smart. I'm smart. I've done things before. What have I done before that's actually worked? When people ask like, what if it fails? Well, what if I start asking myself, what if it succeeds? What if I try something and it actually is better than I expected? What if I try something and it actually exceeds my, wildest dream? Like I had an idea that it would do whatever the, goal or the level is, and it ended up being so much more than that. And I never would have discovered it. Perhaps somebody out there who's watching, perhaps you, I never would have discovered it if I hadn't taken that first step, toward my project. If I hadn't actually said, okay, you know what, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I know the first thing, so I'm going to do the first thing. And then from there, I'll find the second thing, and then from there, I'll keep going. So that's my encouragement to you, whether you're in South Africa or Morocco. Hi, what's up? And I'm going to scroll back and see your comments in just a second. Wherever you are in the world, that there is a part of you that has a dream, and I think you should listen to that part of you, because I think there's a lot of value there. All right. Hey, everybody. Hey, what's up, Karen? Good to see you. Just going to scroll back for a second so I can see. Yes. Hi, everybody. Nice. I'm so glad you're here. What's on your mind? Let me know. Let me know what's up. I'll go for a few more minutes here. Alejandro says, how's the new book going? It's going well. This is week 3. And it's interesting because I'm starting to hear from a lot of people who are reading it. And this is a different book from all my others. It's a story. So I'm sharing a story in which there's a character who's experiencing a lot of financial pressure, has to find his way out. And so it's my hope that a lot of people can find it relatable and connect with it and also learn something. So I'm starting to now hear from a lot of readers who have read it, and that's really fun. That's really fun and interesting. So I'm just I'm keeping, I'm moving forward with it. I'm doing lots of interviews every day. I was like, I can't go out on tour right now, April and May. So I'm going to spend the same amount of time that I would spend touring, doing whatever else I can. So that's how it's going. And I'm going to, I'm in it for the long term. This kind of book will only succeed if people talk about it, if readers actually recommend it. That's like, some books can succeed because of marketing or some other reason. This kind of book will succeed if readers actually talk about it and refer it to their friends. Chris, PDXE, says, feels like the imposter syndrome never ends because every point you get to looks out on a future you've never seen before. It's an endless cycle. Yes, I hear that, and I don't disagree. My only comment would be that when you get to these new points, yes, you have new struggles, but you also have the accomplishments of reaching those points, that seemed insurmountable to you before. And so I think that the foundation that you're building, to continue this metaphor, is what gives you the support to keep going. And so yes, you continue to face that stuff. I continue to face it all the time. I continue to face, comparison issues, or I'm not good enough, all those things I just said. But, I have some foundation based on things I've tried before, things I was scared to do before, but I ended up doing them. So that's my comment on that. So yes, it continues, but it also is good because you're building your success story as you go. Nawal says, I discovered your blog by chance. I'm really happy I did. Thank you. I'm glad you discovered it. Growing Up Without Borders says, I traveled to 100 countries as a family. Wow. That's so cool. Since meeting you in Tampa years ago. Thank you for inspiring us and the great work you continue to do. Well, it's so fun. Thank you for saying that. And you guys are the ones who went to 100 countries as a family, so well done. That is fantastic. I hope we get a chance to hang out in Tampa or some other 100 country, some other part of the world at some point. Someone said, I look forward to reading it. Love the interview with Lewis. Didn't know I was a telemarketer for 2 days. That's the story Karen's referring to. I had the worst job in the world, but I had it for 2 days, trying to sell, I don't know if it's like photo packages. This is when I was 16 or 17 years old. And I don't know what made me think this would be a good job, because it was awful. Like, I was afraid to like dial the phone. I was afraid to get a list of people you're supposed to call and pitch. And it wasn't like I was just afraid to talk to them. I was afraid to physically dial like the numbers on the phone. And it did not go well. And to this day, the question I have for myself is not just like, why did I think that would be good for me? Because maybe I was like, I'll try anything. But the more important question, I think, is like, why did I go back the second day? Like, what was I thinking after the first day was so bad? Like, it's not going to get better, you know? But thankfully, at least at the end of the second day, I quit / was fired, you know, simultaneously, because I went to my boss and I was like, you know what? Maybe, you know, if you find somebody else, you know, for this position, you know, that would be okay. And he was like, oh, we already have. Great. And I was like, okay, perfect. So I'm not going to do that anymore. That was my telemarketer experience. Fortunately, very short-lived. Awesome Design says, I'm finding a silver lining. People are becoming more supportive of small businesses now. Yes, that's great. Me too. I felt like I was bothering the people. Now more than ever, we need to shift into an abundance mindset. Yes, I totally agree. Completely agree. Awesome. Well, before I wrap it up, and thank you, by the way, for joining me. Thank you for joining me for this co-created conversation. I'm doing these a few days a week on Instagram. I'm doing it every weekday morning on YouTube, 9 a.m. Pacific. So you can find that just with my name, youtube.com/Chris Gila. And there I'm teaching a little bit more of a lesson. Like, I actually have slides. I'm trying to teach something, but we also have a conversation. So it's also co-created, which is really the best. So I want to leave you with a quote before I sign off for the day, for the evening, for the middle of the night in Morocco and South Africa, and anybody else out there. Are you guys just up in the middle of the night, or do you just not sleep, or what? I mean, I understand. I'm often up in the middle of the night too. Jake Graves says, the Money Tree was awesome. Oh, cool. I'm glad you thought so. If you've not read The Money Tree, I would love for you to check it out, anybody. I would love to hear what you think about it. It's a very personal book. It's different from all my others, and would love to know what you think. So the quote I'm going to leave you with, this was from my newsletter the other day, and it relates to the whole imposter syndrome thing that we were just talking about, the authentic self, etc. The quote is from Carl Jung, and it says, or the quote is, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. So I leave you with that today. The person that you are, the authentic self, the person you truly are, is brave, is willing to take risks, has ideas and dreams, and take steps toward those dreams, even if it's scary. You know, so it's not even so much about being brave. It's like, even if you're not brave, you're still taking the steps toward the thing that you want to do. And so I join you in that this evening or morning or wherever it is in your world. So thank you so much, and I look forward to connecting further. Have a wonderful day.